Hello, everyone. My name is Ole Kagan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for LA County Library. And I welcome you to Understanding Handheld Devices. All right, that out of the way, let's get on to today's event. This program is supported in whole or in part by the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services under the provisions of the Library Services and Technology Act, administered in California by the state librarian. And our speaker for today is Lawrence Mack, a MakeMo or Makermobile librarian, which means he drives a colorful van all over LA County doing STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math programs at places like schools, senior centers, parks, libraries, and many more places. Today, he'll be exploring handheld devices for you. Lawrence, the stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Oleg, and good morning, everyone. Bear with me just a second as I share my screen, and then we will be on our way. All right. So welcome to Understanding Handheld Devices. All right, and again, I'm Lawrence and your guide today for this digital literacy program. And so in this program, we're going to go over some of the basics of handheld devices, including some common features that they share and what exactly you can do with these handheld devices to have them assist you in your everyday lives. Again, if you have any questions during the program, please feel free to post it in the chat or the Q&A, and we will get to it at the Q&A session at the end of this program. For more library news, including upcoming programs, resources, and events, you can check out our website at lacountylibrary.org. And we're also on social media with the handle at LA County Library. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more at LA County Library. Now, let's begin. All right, so for handheld devices, so smartphones and tablets can provide you with myriad tools to assist in daily life. And learning how to operate a handheld device can allow you to do a lot of stuff, such as, for example, checking bank account balances, listening to music, organizing to-do lists, and more. So let's take a look at an example as a use case for someone who might find this class useful. So you just got a smartphone, brand new user, and you want to be able to check your email. You need a specific app, but where do you get it? How do you download it? And how do you know if it's the right app? So we're going to be covering things such as like the app stores on both the major platforms, iOS for Apple and Android for Google. Those are the two major smartphone platforms. And I'm going to show you through our screenshots just how to look for specific apps and also what those app pages tell you, what kind of information is available on those app pages. And hopefully that will help you be able to narrow down your choices for the apps that you need. So you might be asking yourself, why use handheld devices? Well, handheld devices are everywhere and are being used for more and more tasks. Today, you can use a smartphone to unlock and start some cars through apps. You can make a payment with cashiers at a store using a chip in the phone that allows it to verify the payment. Or you can use it to check out library books using this really cool app called Libby that gains you access to LA County Library's ebook and audiobook collection. So, just maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, handheld devices weren't really a thing. They were premium devices and, not very many people had them. Well, fast forward to today and, these handheld devices, these smartphones and tablets, they can do a lot of stuff. You can use them to control just about every aspect, every digital aspect of a person's life, especially with these newer internet connected devices, such as like e-homes and also internet connected cars. You can handle a lot of things. Like, there's apps to do things like opening your garage door, to change, the temperature settings on the AC in your house. And like it says, to unlock and start some cars. These things, these apps replace a lot of, older devices that we use before. It kind of condenses it all into one handy device. So first, let me take you through what you can expect on handheld devices, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet. All right, so first off, the physical buttons. So as you might know, if you use cell phones, the first cell phones are basically miniaturized versions of those touch tone phones. They have all of the number buttons and the pound and the star key. Well, now it's been pretty much condensed with smartphones to have a power button and 2 volume buttons as the only physical buttons. And that is true for the majority of mainstream cell phones nowadays, including Apple devices and also Google devices, Android devices, including like Samsung, Pixel devices, and more. So basically, the only ones you can control through like touch, like say you're in the dark, the only things you can find are the power button and the 2 volume buttons that you can easily find through touch. And basically everything else is controlled through touch settings on the home screen. So basically, the home screen provides a lot of interesting settings. So you can access some settings from the home screen by swiping from the top or the bottom edge, depending on your device. And this can allow you to change commonly used settings on your device, such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the volume as well. So you can change volume settings both through the physical buttons and through the home screen. So, and I'll explain some of these settings, and we'll have some screenshots so you can see, how these settings are changed. So first, you might be wondering, what's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth? If you haven't really used digital devices before, these phrases can sound, very strange, very foreign and confusing. Well, so Wi-Fi is basically, a wireless internet and network. So they're put through these things called routers, and they kind of create a wireless field around that router. And it allows users to connect their devices wirelessly to the internet. Before Wi-Fi, everything had to be connected through cables to the router, which made it very limited in terms of portability. Well, Wi-Fi solves that because, it allows people just to have their smartphones or their smart devices and just go around the house while still connecting to the home internet. And it also allows places like coffee shops or public libraries and other public spaces have their own free Wi-Fi networks for people to connect to and access. Next is Bluetooth, and that's represented by this small symbol on the right. And that Bluetooth, it's another wireless field that allows users to connect hardware, such as like headphones, to their devices wirelessly. So for example, if you've seen wireless headphones, like those Apple EarPods, those connect via Bluetooth because there's no physical connection between them and their device. Again, in the past, if you had wired headphones, you might have connected it to your device through the 3.5 millimeter audio jack. But again, a lot of newer devices do away with the audio jack. So Bluetooth would be your only option for those. unless you have a USB-C connector for the headphones, which those are a little rare. Okay, so here is here's a view of the iPhone settings. So basically on the home screen, you would swipe down from the top and this would show you all of those settings. All right. Now, depending on the version of the operating system that you're running, it might look a little different. And this is true for both Apple and Android and any other devices. As the devices get updated with their operating system settings, some visual effects might change. So just keep that in mind. But this is kind of the basics of what you're going to see. All right, so for example, to turn on or off the Wi-Fi, which we just mentioned, there's this button here, and that's this little wireless field, like kind of radar image there. And on iOS, on iPhones, if it's blue, filled in blue, that means it's on. All right, and if it's off, like this, and if it's off, like this airplane mode button, then the surrounding area in the circle would be grayed out. All right, and the same thing with the Bluetooth. This is the symbol for the Bluetooth. And again, if it's filled in, that means it's on. If it's grayed out, that means it's off. And again, to activate or deactivate, you would just tap once and it will change colors. All right, so there's different settings that you can see, and these are customizable, by the way. But you can see that there's setting for volume, there's a setting for brightness, and there's also settings for things like turning on the camera and quick settings for like calculators and stuff like that. All right, and also for any media that you might be playing, you can also control from the home screen settings. All right, so this is the home screen settings for iOS. All right, and now here's the home screen settings for Android. So again, there's two types of the settings. So this is the first one that you might get when you first swipe down. It'll give you a simplified view with just a couple buttons. Again, there's the Wi-Fi, there's the sound, there's Bluetooth, and there's a couple other ones. And for a lot of Android systems, if you swipe down again, then you're going to get the screen on the right-hand side, which shows an expanded settings menu. And you know, there's a lot more settings here that you can toggle and play around with. And as you can see, a lot of them have descriptions of what the settings do. Like, for example, you can see besides the usual suspects from the left-hand side, you can see that you can turn on airplane mode, flashlight, or power saving mode. So there's a lot more settings in the expanded view for Android systems.
Hey, Lawrence, can you go back to the iPhone screen real quick?
Okay.
Oh, somebody wanted to know what that little lollipop-looking icon was in green above the Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. So this one, if you're using a smartphone or if you're using a tablet that has a cellular connection, this is the cellular connection button. So if it's on, that means you're connected to the cellular network. So if you're using like Verizon or T-Mobile, AT&T, or another network, if this is on, that means you're connected to the network. You're receiving wireless data over like 4G or 5G.
Or LTE.
Or LTE, yes. Yeah. And then if that's off, then that means you're not connected to the cellular network. So you won't be able to like call or text or, you know, watch videos on YouTube. So if you're out and about and not connected to a Wi-Fi network, so for example, if this is blacked out and this is blacked out, then your device probably isn't connected to the internet.
It's essentially what like what airplane mode does. It just turns both of those off.
Yeah, yes, very, very true. So airplane mode, this little airplane icon that you see here and also here, that's used for when you're on an airplane, usually during takeoff or landing. They advise people to turn on airplane mode, which stops all signals from your device. And they do this for safety reasons to stop any cellular signals from interfering with signals from the airplane. So that's what airplane mode is for. It's just to turn off all signals from your device.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Mhm. All right, so now besides the home screen settings, which is usually a swipe down from your home screen menu, you can use the actual settings menu, which allows you to do a lot more customization. So using the settings menu, you can change font sizes, background images, sounds, and a lot more. And it allows the greatest degree of customization that the home screen settings don't allow. And to access settings on both iOS and Android, it's usually represented by a device with a gear on it. So if you see something with a gear, it'll usually say settings, but if it doesn't, that's what it's for. All right, so this is kind of the dedicated settings menu for iPhone. So as you can see, it gives you a lot more things to work with. So first, there's this search bar here that allows you to look up a specific setting. So, I mean, that's really good, especially if you know what you're looking for, but you don't know where it is, because there's a lot of submenus here. So if you want to look for something specific, you can just type it in here and the device will do its best to give you the setting that you're looking for. All right. And then they also have your accounts. So for most smartphone devices, they suggest that you set up an account with their service because they want to tailor your experience and be able to personalize your experience. So this is where you would sign in or out with your account. For Apple, you usually make an Icloud account. For Google, you usually make a Gmail account. All right. And then you see first the basic menu settings that we talked about. And these are the ones that are usually available on the home screen settings as well. So you see you can toggle airplane mode on and off. There's a Wi-Fi, there's Bluetooth, there's the cellular connection, and also there's something called a personal hotspot. I'm not going to go too much into that, but basically turning on a personal hotspot will let your phone be used as kind of a router. So other devices can connect to your phone to use your phone's cellular internet as well. So it's a handy feature if you're somewhere that doesn't have Wi-Fi, but other people want to connect their devices to the internet as well. All right, and as you can see, there's a lot more settings down there. So, there's notifications. You can control what notifications you receive and from which app, which I find to be very useful. And then, there's sounds and haptics, which lets you control, how loud something is, how loud a notification or an alarm or ringtone is. So there's a lot of different settings that you can play around with. All right, so here on Android, here's the dedicated settings menu. And if you've not used one or the other, you're beginning to notice that many of these settings look very similar or are the same compared with the other operating system, whether you're Apple or Android. And that's because a lot of them are. They serve the same function. And so it makes it easy to switch from one operating system to another. If you decide to switch phones or get a new device, it makes it easier to pick up and play from the get-go. Don't have to learn too much. If you're familiar with one system, then you're probably going to do fine on another system as well. So again, they've got the search bar here, so you can search for a specific setting. You can, this is where you log in with your account. It's usually a Gmail account for Google. It's got the connections here, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, airplane mode, sounds and vibration notifications. And then there's also stuff like display. So display settings, we will go over that next. All right, so for display settings, you might notice that for both iPhone and Android, sometimes you want to customize your screen because sometimes, you might decide the screen is too dark. You want to make it brighter so that it's more clear, or the screen is too bright. It's making your eyes tired. So you might want to turn the brightness settings down. You can do that and more with the display and brightness settings. So for example, on the iPhone, the display and brightness menu is here. And the most important part, you can toggle the brightness setting to a custom amount that is comfortable for you. Now you can also put it on automatic mode. And what that does on automatic mode is it will automatically adjust the brightness based on the light sensor that's in the screen. All right. And there's something very cool called light or dark mode. So light mode is has been the default, where there's dark text on a bright white screen. And that's good for some situations. But for example, they've added a dark mode that's present in both iPhone and Android systems now. And you can toggle that to be something like this. So this display settings, so this phone is currently in dark mode. And what that does, it flips the black and white. So it's a black background with white text. And this is useful for situations where, like, for example, if you're lying in bed and your lights are out, you just want to browse through some emails before you go to sleep. Dark mode's probably better on your eyes than the light mode, which can be a little blinding. So this makes it more relaxed, lets your eyes adjust better in dark settings. And again, here's the Android display settings. You can see it's very, very similar. There's the light and dark mode up top. You can change the brightness toggle to your custom desired setting. You can have adaptive brightness, which basically means automatic. It'll adapt based on the situation. One thing that I want to note, however, the brighter you make your device, so the more you put this toggle to the right-hand side, the more battery your device will drain while it's on, because in order to make the screen brighter, your device needs to expend more energy to do so. So just keep that in mind if you're somebody who likes to use super bright devices, it might affect your battery life. All right, and again, there's settings for the font size and style. If you don't like the font, if you want a custom font, usually iPhone and Android devices have that option for you. You can change it to a different type of font, and also you can change the size of these of the font as well. So you can make the font bigger if you want more readability. You can also make the font smaller if you want to fit more content on the page at the same time. So again, it's totally up to you. All right, so now let's get to apps. So that's the big part of a smartphone, is the ability to have different apps or applications or programs. Those are all the same thing on your device, which can do different things. All right, so these apps do everything I mentioned earlier. They can check your bank account, they can start up your car, they can check books out from the library. That's what apps are for. They're tailored for different functions, and it's really cool to be able to mix and match different apps. All right, so there's two major app stores, or let's say marketplaces, available. So on the left-hand side, is the App Store that allows users to download apps on a device that runs iOS, or for iPads, iPad OS. All right, so that's the Apple's online marketplace. And Google has Google Play, which is on the right-hand side. It allows users to download apps on a device that runs Android. So one thing to note, major apps, for most major apps, they have apps on both of these marketplaces. So don't worry, about missing out on one app or another. They're usually on both major platforms if they want to maximize their user base. Okay, so here are the apps for iPhone. So here's the App Store home screen. Once you go into the App Store, you're greeted with this scene, and basically they have this big preview of apps. They usually have some kind of recommendations, some apps that they're trying to push. You can tap on those or not, and they'll give you links to download those apps. And also there's lists of apps on the bottom here that you can take a look at. All right, and on the bottom, they have this small toolbar where you can see different tabs. All right, so this is the app home screen. And again, games and arcade, those are both kind of self-explanatory. If you want to find some fun apps, some apps that are entertaining, games and arcade, probably where you want to go. And then today we'll kind of like have a list of the current apps that they're recommending. But if you really want to search for a specific app, you want to use the search button right there. And that brings us to the screenshot on the right-hand side. All right, so on the search, you can type something. So here, I'm looking for Google Earth. All right, so that's a cool app that lets you kind of explore different landmarks around the world. All right, so I take a look at that. And once you search for an app, it's not going to be the first result. So if you search for an app, they're usually going to have an ad. And that's kind of like a recommended app. You don't have to, pay attention to their ads. You might find it useful, you might not. It's just there. And then below the ad will be the actual results from the search. All right, so, right here, you've got Google Earth, gain a new perspective. And if you see the app you think you like, go ahead and click Get. And that will bring us to the app page. All right, so this is the page for an app. And so, it has the name of the app. It usually has kind of like a small description. And also this will change to like the name of the developer as well. It'll have ratings for the app. All right, you can see how many reviews there are. You can see what the average user rating is for the app. You can see the intended age for the users of the app, and you can see where it ranks on certain charts. So for example, this app is ranked number 5 on the travel apps. All right, and also there's developer information that you can click on as well. And also they have these screenshots here along with a description of the app at the bottom. So this is kind of like a preview of the app. It shows you what the app does. It might play a short video clip to show the app in action. And it's all designed to get you to install the app. To find out more about the developer, you can click on the developer button here. And I know it's a little cut off here, but if you scroll the page to the right, you'll be able to see all of it. If you click on that, it'll take you to the app developers page where you can see all of their apps. So you can see, Google LLC, and you can see all their latest apps and games, and you'll be able to scroll through that and see what they have. All right, so again, you need to be careful with apps because you need to be able to verify whether or not the developer is who they say they are. There are fake apps that purport to be the actual apps online or on these app stores. And what they do, they try to trick you into installing that fake app, and that fake app might be, used to like steal your data or for some other nefarious purpose. So again, it's always good to take a look at the ratings, and legitimate apps will usually have a good amount of ratings. So 28,000 ratings, and they usually have a decent review score. All right. And also, based on these ratings and reviews, you can also check the developer. So you can see, Google LLC, and you can see they have all the other apps that they've developed. So, if this was just, Google LLC and they had Google Earth and something else like, entirely Google, not related to Google, then, that might, you might want to see whether or not this is the legitimate app. All right, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at new apps. Okay, so let's move on to the Google Play front page. So once you click on that Play Store icon, this is the page you'll see. And as you can see, there's a search bar up top where you can search for cool apps. And also they have like a more visually oriented page with a lot more icons. So you can see they have recommendations for you based on your recent activity. They have ads, which are suggested for you. And then they also have, again, recommended for you. All right. And there's these tabs here that you can go through for different categories. You can go for kids apps, you can go for the top of the chart apps, or editor's choice apps. And again, near the bottom, you'll be able to see a lot of entertainment options. You can go look specifically for games. You can look specifically for movies and TV. You can look specifically for books. Okay, so again, if you want to search for a particular app, you just type in the name and hit done, and it will bring up a page like this. So for example, let's say you want to see Google Earth again. So as you notice, the format's a little different from the App Store on iOS, but the function should be technically the same for the app. All right, so you see here, you can see that there's the reviews. So 4.3 stars, over 2 million reviews. All right, seems legit. There's over 100 million downloads, seems legit. And I guess they're using the rating system, E for everyone or T for teens, kind of like that. And then they also have the small preview here and a blurb about the app and what it does. And they also have the ratings and reviews near the bottom that you can read specific user reviews and see what people are saying about this app. And if that all looks legit, you just tap install and it will install on its merry way. Again, to check out the developer page, you just click on the developer link, which is right below the app, and it will take you to the developer page. And here you can see, Google LLC. There's a small description of the developer, along with some featured apps and all of their apps that you can browse through to make sure it's legit, or to install apps from developers that you like. Okay, so next we'll go to widgets. So widgets are directly connected to apps. So you can think of widgets as streamlined versions of apps that reside on your home screen, and they display minimal information on the home screen of your device without having to open the app. So it's kind of like having a rolling preview on your homepage that you can quickly glance at while you're moving through to whatever task you have next. So it kind of lets you get information at a glance from some of your apps. For example, users can check the weather, can look at stocks, view their email inbox, and much more using only widgets. So what do widgets look like? All right, so here is a typical iPhone homepage. So if you're an iPhone user, you can see that there's folders, there's icons like for the App Store and settings, things that we've gone over. And there's the bar down here. And there are also lots of widgets. So let's kind of go through these widgets. So for the weather app, you can set a widget, which is basically a bigger, it takes up more screen real estate than an icon, but it can also display more data. So if you have this weather widget here, you can set it to display information from a certain area. So here it shows, Norwalk, 61 degrees, sunny, and highs and lows for that day. So if you wanted to know the weather, you wouldn't have to specifically go to the weather app. You can just take a look at that, say, looks good. I can go out for a hike today, and just leave it at that. Now, if you wanted more information, you can always just tap on the widget, and that will open up the app so you can get more information. All right. And next we have a widget here for podcasts. So the podcast app from from Apple, you can subscribe to your favorite podcasts, and here it can kind of show what podcasts you've been listening to, or you can click to resume a podcast. It's handy if you don't want to go into and select a podcast to listen to. And last but not least, there's a bigger widget here, and this is the widget for Libby. So Libby is the app that LA County Library uses to display its electronic collection, ebooks and audiobooks. So here, it shows basically what you've been reading, and also when it's due, in 12 days, and how much you've read it. So you can see at a glance what you've been reading, how much you've gone through it, and how many days until it has to be returned. One thing you might note is that these widgets are different sizes, and that's one of the cool things about them. So you can customize widgets for their sizes to display more or less information. For example, this weather widget here, you could expand it to something as big as the Libby app, and that might display more weather information from multiple areas. So that's a really good customizability there that you can use. And again, here is a home screen from an Android system, and you have widgets. There are lots of widgets here too. So for example, here at the bottom, here's the weather widget, and that displays, the location, the temperature, conditions outside. So basically the information that the Apple widget has. Here is the Libby widget with the same book. And again, here it doesn't show as much information because this is just a bar widget, but it lets you keep playing the audiobook, and it also lets you forward and reverse throughout that audiobook as well. And it's the same deal here with this bar widget. This is also a podcast widget, and it lets you play or reverse or fast forward through the podcast. All right. And also we have another widget here. So this is like a list widget. So it lets you put like a shopping list here. And it lets you see at a glance. You can also, quickly edit it or add stuff to it using these icons. So there are widgets for many, many apps, and they have many, many uses. All right, so in summary, smartphones and tablets, when you first get them and when you first use them, they can feel really overwhelming. And I know this, I've been through this, and I know that with time, practice, and a little effort, your devices can be set up to work well to meet your needs. So basically, just keep using the device, get familiar with it, put in practice. With practice, that will kind of help improve the muscle memory. And with that, you can become a familiar, quick user of your tablet devices. All right. So just remember, that the library is here for you. We have a lot of resources to help. All right, so we have a lot of ebooks and audiobooks in our catalog, as well as physical books. As you can see on this small preview here, we have, iPhones updated for the latest models, iPhones for seniors. We have iPhones for, for adults, for teens, for kids, books that can cover every age range to help with, being able to use their devices. All right. There's also online learning. So we have free access to, LinkedIn Learning, Gale courses, online classes through your LA County Library card that provides, informative videos on how to use a certain device. And we also have more digital literacy programming, such as this one here, that can help familiarize you with the digital world as well. So here's some resources, that picked out, iPhone, Android smartphones, and also like there's the latest iOS 16 and iPad OS on LinkedIn Learning, as well as the latest Android operating systems on LinkedIn Learning as well. All right. And if you have any questions, either about the topics on this program or just in general, you're always welcome to speak to a librarian. We're available on phone, text, email, or instant librarian, or you can just come to any open LA County Library location, come to the reference desk, and we'll be more than happy to help you with your information needs. So that concludes our program. Thank you so much for attending. And now it's time for the Q&A.
I just double clicked to stop the start video. It was like on and off, and now it's on. Okay, so we've got some great questions. I'm gonna get started.
Oh, Oleg, I think your mic is flipped up.
Good point. And my voice is a little weird, but with the mic up here, then you can barely hear me. Period. So, all right, let's get into some of these questions. So the first question is, devices like the iPhone, iPad seem to store backup onto the cloud. I don't want to store my data on the cloud. Apple uses backup, used to backup using iTunes. How do you backup or transfer data without using the cloud?
Okay, so that can be found in the settings. All right, so let me share the PowerPoint again. I'll go back to that page. So there's a setting for that. You can go into it and then you can turn it on or off. All right, so let's go there real quick. All right, so for Apple, if you're on the settings page, you would click this here where it has your Apple ID, iCloud, etc. Click into that, and there should be a setting for iCloud to turn backing up to iCloud on or off. So if you turn it off, then it will just save the information onto your device. And if you connect your device to a computer that has iTunes installed, you can make a backup version on iTunes. All right, but you'll need to have iTunes installed on your either Mac or Windows PC and your iPhone for that.
And then for Android, it's similar. And depending on the app, some apps you have to set that within the app. So for instance, I have an Android phone and I use Google Photos. So Google Photos can either back up to the cloud or store the photos on the device, or both. I have it automatically backing up into my Google Drive. That way, if I want to erase the pictures from my phone or videos from my phone, I can erase them and then they're still out there, but they don't take up space on my phone. But I can turn that off and just store items on my phone. So usually it's in the settings, but sometimes it's complicated because different apps work in different ways. All right, so let's see. Next question is, both my iPad and Android phone don't have a delete button, only backspace. How do you delete in the normal way? So that's the face. When I first saw the question, that's the face I was like, the normal way. And I think I know what the person who's asking this question is wondering about, because I'm looking at my keyboard, and of course there's a backspace and there's a delete button. If you highlight something and press delete, it'll delete it. And also I think you put the cursor on the front of something and you press delete and it'll, it disappears. Backspace, you have to put the cursor in front. So there's a different, either back or front. If backspace, you put the cursor behind something and then backspace, and the delete, it's sort of like front space. But I think the way that you would get around that is you would just highlight whatever you're trying to delete. So you like long press on whatever you're trying to delete on the iPad or the phone, and then just press the backspace button, and it'll remove it. But unfortunately, I don't think that there is a sort of normal delete function. All right, let's move on to, I think I covered that, Lawrence. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, that would be how you do it on iOS as well.
Okay. Folks, if you have questions, please don't put them in the chat. Put them in the Q&A, please, because I'm looking at the Q&A for the questions, and if you post them in the chat, there's a chance that we might miss them. So if you have questions that you've put in the chat, go ahead and copy them over into the Q&A. All right. In the settings, can you explain the auto lock and raise to wake?
Let's see, auto lock. Okay, so raise to wake, that's when your iPhone detects it's on a flat surface. And when you turn that on, when you pick up the phone, then it should, turn on and, wake up by itself. For auto lock, that should be when X amount of time has passed and your phone is still open on like an open app or the home screen. Then after X amount of minutes has passed, then it should automatically lock itself and turn off the screen and require your PIN number or your Face ID or whatever to unlock.
All right. On iPhone, is it possible to have multiple volumes set at the same time? For instance, nighttime meditations should always be soft, while morning wake-up alarm is always loud. Or is there just one volume control for everything?
So let's see. I believe there's only one volume setting for ringer and alerts, and another volume setting for media, like your music or your or YouTube or anything like that.
I feel like there should be an app for that. I don't know if I don't think there's anything built in, because when I saw the question, I looked at my Android phone to see if the alarm had a volume settings within the alarm, the default alarm app, and there wasn't. You can set different music, but not different volumes. So I would think that there might be a custom alarm app that you can download that might actually adjust the volume for you as well. But that's an interesting idea, and I mean it's an intuitive idea to be able to set the different volumes at different times. I feel like that's something that artificial intelligence will be able to do for us in the future. That's sort of almost a simple application of artificial intelligence. My iPad couldn't save email address in autocomplete. How do you save it manually? Can you adjust autocomplete? Can you input things into autocomplete? I wonder. Because I know that on web, I don't know if it looks like you're looking at uploads, which is good.
Yeah.
I know in a browser, browsers will save that kind of stuff. So you can actually go into the settings of browsers and change or edit what you have in autocomplete. So like when I moved, I went and changed my address in my browser, and then that way I could put in when when I need to put my address into places, it would correctly input. I wonder if there's such a thing in the iPad, or if it's autocomplete when it comes to like the keyboard, when the keyboard above it has a little autocomplete thing. Oftentimes, if you type in something enough, they'll save it for you. It'll just learn about it and save it. But I don't know if you were able to find an official answer for that.
Well, in my keyboard settings, there's just a toggle for autocomplete. Let's see. I think for the email, it would depend on the app you're using to be able to save commonly used emails, wouldn't it?
It might. I mean, if it's in a browser, then the browser will be the one that saves it. And it'll kind of drop down when you put your cursor in there. Another option would be if the iPad keyboard doesn't automatically save that stuff and offer it to you when you're typing it in, you could download a different keyboard to you. I don't know if you can do that on an iPad or an Apple device. I know with Android devices, you have options of different keyboards, like Samsung phones come default with a Samsung keyboard, but Pixel devices come default with the Google keyboard. And I like the Google keyboard better. So on my Samsung work phone, I change it to the Google keyboard. So then there's other keyboards that have various configurations and different settings. It's just a regular app. You can download the App Store, and there's a few steps to change the keyboard. It's something that's kind of fun to fiddle around with, at least in my opinion. I'm kind of a nerd, so I like to fiddle around with different keyboards and different settings on the phone.
For the email, I would suggest going to the Mail app or to the Safari app. So those have more autofill options, especially in Safari. So if you go to the Safari app and you look up autofill, you can take a look at like contact info, and you'll be able to modify that. If the email address is saved in your contacts.
I think that's also the key, that you would have had to send an email to that person before, and then once that happens, then the email program will know, or the email app will know that you're trying to type in that person's name or email. All right, next question. It looks like the person wanted to mention they don't have they say an app, but I think they mean they don't have an Apple Store or Play Store, and they want to know how do you download it. But everybody who has in modern mobile devices, whether you have an Android where you would have the Play Store, or an iPad, or an Apple device where you would have the App Store, right? It's called just the App Store. Mm-hmm. They come by default with those stores. I think the Microsoft, it's called what is it called? The Microsoft devices. Very few people have the Microsoft devices, but Microsoft has its own App Store as well. It's just called the Microsoft Store, I think. So yeah, you don't need to download that. That should just be on your device. How are those fake apps? You mentioned fake apps earlier, Lawrence. How are fake apps able to get onto the App Store?
So I think this is, well, they're able to get onto the App Store because they publish the app on the App Store. And as long as they haven't been reported or anything like that, there's no reason for, either Apple or Google censors to remove it. This is a little more common on the Play Store, I would think, because it's a more open platform. iOS is somewhat more of a walled garden, although some apps do sneak in there from time to time. But almost anybody can publish an app. It's just up to the moderators on the app stores, on the marketplaces, to remove it if enough people report them. And
then the idea of what a fake app is can be looked at in kind of a wide or a narrow lens. If you look at something narrow, the narrow lens, you can be like, a fake app is an app that just doesn't do anything. I mean, it's an app or an app that says it does something and it does something else, which is obviously totally not legitimate. There are also apps that can be considered fake apps or something, something similar to a fake app, where the app it does something. I mean, it does what it's supposed to do. So if an app is supposed to, like, I don't know, I'm just going to give a really off the wall example. If an app is supposed to give you a thumbs up sign and you open it and it gives you the thumbs up, good job, person. But it also has some kind of spyware in it, or it requires some kind of permissions. What kind of permissions does an app that gives you a thumbs up need? It doesn't need any permissions. Like, it doesn't need your storage. It doesn't need your contact list. It doesn't need to be able to put your phone to sleep or not put your phone to sleep. It doesn't need any permissions. But if you see an app that, an app that has this kind of simple functionality that then asks you for permissions, then you got to wonder, or if there's a giant privacy policy when you, or there's no privacy policy at all when you download it and try and install it and open it for the first time, then you've got to wonder, why does this thumbs up app need all these things? Is it sending my information back to somebody? Is it a backdoor to some kind of illegitimate, nefarious purposes on the part of the developer? Maybe. I mean, it's not fake. It gives you the thumbs up, but it has some other functionality that you may not want. The functionality is not for you. It's for these bad people. Now I feel like I have to create a thumbs up app just because I said it. Good job. All right. How do you create or delete actually, we have a few people, like 3 people asked the same question. How do you create or delete a widget?
All right, so for widgets, right. That is a good question. Gosh, I haven't created a widget in quite some time.
On an Android phone, sorry, on an Android phone, usually it's just a matter of dragging it from, I'm thinking where exactly you drag it from, but you can usually find widgets and then drag them onto your screen, onto your home screen. I'm going to look right now because I don't have any widget. I have a different kind of launcher on my phone. A launcher is the way your phone looks. I mean, it's the different functionality of your phone. So my launcher is not the default Android launcher. So let me actually look at my work phone because it's also an Android device, and it should tell me. Should show me how to do it. So I'm going to click the, I'm trying to find out. I've seen, because I've just set up a launcher for my dad and he has an Android phone, and it was just a matter of finding where it was and dragging it over onto the home screen. But now I don't remember. Now I know that there are, for instance, some apps that will give you an option to create a launcher. I know, for example, the Todoist app has a launcher, and many other apps will give you the option for a launcher. But maybe that's something we need, or like a widget, not a launcher. I say launcher, I mean widget. Maybe we should, because that might be different steps on an Apple device and an Android device. I feel like maybe we should just send a video to folks for how to do it after, because I know there are YouTube videos on how to do it.
Well, I can show a quick screenshot for the Apple right now.
Yep.
So to create a widget on an iPhone, you're going to find some open real estate on your home screen. You're going to tap and hold it until for a couple seconds until these come up. So they're delete signs, and also there's a small plus button that comes up. So once you click that, then you can start searching for widgets on your apps. And once you do that, you can drag that app and then just put the widget where you want it and release, and then it should be on your home screen.
Actually, Lawrence, I'm really glad that you brought up this example because it reminded me how to do it on an Android device, and it's literally almost the same. You just hold the screen, you just hold like right in the middle of the screen where you have no apps, and then what comes up is it depends on the phone, but the version of Android, but it's mostly similar. Once you hold it, your desktop will kind of get smaller, and you'll have some options to change your wallpaper, themes, and there will be a button for widgets. You press that button, and it'll give you an option for many different kinds of widgets. Just like on an Apple device, you select which widget you'd like, and it has widgets from all different apps on your phone. And then you just tap that, and then you can move it around on your screen, put it wherever you want on your home screen, or any of the home screens that you have. Maybe I have several. I'm glad we're able to get that. I didn't really relish sending in a video afterwards, so I'm glad we're able to cover that. All right, I see people on planes. Okay, I see people on planes watching videos or movies on their devices. Doesn't airline want device in airplane mode that doesn't allow playing videos?
Well, if it's not takeoff or landing, they usually let you, the airlines usually let you turn on your devices. And also, oftentimes, if they're watching videos, they might have downloaded that video onto their device. So they might just be watching it off of their local storage. Otherwise, a lot of airlines also have like Wi-Fi services that you can connect to on your devices, and you can just browse the web normally like you do at home.
All right. I have a cheap Android phone. Does it have a light and dark screen option too?
I would say that depends. It depends on the Android version that you have. If you have one of the latest Android versions, you probably have the light and dark option. I think that was introduced maybe a couple of years ago. So I'm looking up which version.
It's not so much the phone itself, it's more the operating system. So which version of Android one has.
Yeah. So if you have Android 10 or above, then you should have the dark mode.
And then some apps also have their own specific dark mode. So you can, even if your whole phone doesn't have it, there's certain apps that will do it for you. That's just usually available in the settings.
Mm-hmm.
When was Android 10 released?
Android. So Android 10 was released in 2019.
Okay, so it's been a few years. It's not like it was just released. So yeah, if you got your phone after 2019 and it's an Android phone, there's a good chance that you have it built in with the operating system.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what is the difference between internal storage and memory on your phone?
All right. Internal storage, I would assume that you're talking about like the hard drive. So that's where the data for your apps and everything is stored. That's where your photos are stored. That's where your MP3s are stored. So that kind of data is usually now phones come with 64 gigabytes, or you might have 32 gigabytes, even above 128, 256. That's usually your phone's storage drive, hard drive. Now, memory is something called RAM, or random access memory. And that usually comes with like 4 gigabytes or 8 gigabytes, or maybe 16 nowadays. So what that does, it increases your device's capacity to multitask, to have multiple apps and data available at once that you can pull up without having to dig into the storage. So basically, it's your phone's ability to multitask versus your phone's ability to store lots and lots of files.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I wasn't even thinking about that because the term memory is used interchangeably in so many ways. I'm glad you brought up the idea of RAM, or random access memory, because yeah, internal storage, yeah, there are two different kinds of memory, one long-term memory and one short-term memory. So computers in some ways are like our brains, but also extremely different. Very different. All right. Does a widget take up memory? And regarding external, internal memory. Well, does a widget take up storage space?
Not really. No, it's just an extension of the app. So it's just there with some snippets of data. Doesn't really have a lot. It shouldn't affect your performance much,
Yeah,
if at all.
if it takes up storage, it's negligible. Let's see. My question is about the cloud too. Why would it automatically take our work, ideas, and effort to the cloud? Are they going through it, stealing ideas like Facebook and Google does? Well, this question is, I think this question has some misapprehension of what the cloud does and what the cloud is, and also how Facebook and Google interact with people's data. So let's break it down just a little bit. So the cloud is simply online storage. So it takes the files on a computer, and they're stored in a server or on a hard drive, essentially in somewhere else. So it could be, I could have a cloud server in my house where I store all of my stuff on a separate device from my computer. It's another computer essentially, and I could store things from my phone onto my own personal cloud. I can store things from my personal computer, and there are various options to do that. And that, I've been actually thinking about setting one up for myself. Most people use clouds from from big companies like Microsoft or Google, or and those, for instance, for work, Lawrence and I both use, we have Microsoft Outlook, and so we use Microsoft, what is it? It's called OneDrive. So we use, OneDrive, and it stores various data from our different Microsoft software that we use for work. The cloud doesn't take ideas or effort or anything like that. It's just files. You might have put some effort and ideas into creating those files, but it's just computer files. Most of the time, these big corporations don't go through the stuff in the cloud in the same way that we would think of a person rifling through somebody else's, cabinet. The reason for that is that because they have billions of files in the cloud, and so it wouldn't be worthwhile for them to go through this data to find people's ideas, or to try to get something sort of tangible or specific from all of the data stored in their cloud. What they tend to do, what they could do, what they usually, I don't think they do. I don't think they take individual data from people. I think they aggregate, for instance, how much people put in, how much people, they aggregate data from millions of people and then get sort of ideas and insights from that. And that's kind of where we are with Facebook, where Facebook, they have a privacy policy and they violated their own terms by taking the data aggregated from millions of people, not you, like data from you specifically, like, if you're, John Brown, John Brown is this tall, this whatever. They took data from John Brown plus a million other people. So it's not like people are individually recognizable. They aggregate all this data and then use that to then create some sort of insights. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes that kind of data collection can be used for nefarious purposes. I mean, people can be individually identified sometimes, and that has been proven. But I would say for the most part, with cloud-based services, that kind of individualization or kind of privacy breaches aren't typically things that we worry about from the company side. Breaches tend to be when somebody's password is cracked, or somebody's account is somehow violated, usually by people who are not with those companies. Although, there have been hacks where people in the companies have been hacked themselves, and then through their computer, bad actors have gotten in. I don't know. I just gave a really long, sorry, Lawrence. I don't know. You may have had an answer for this question too. I just kind of started talking.
No, I think you gave a really good overview about and broke that question down to its separate components very well.
All right, so let's go on to the next one. This is an easier question. How do you know if apps are free?
Okay, so to know that, so apps, there are different types of costs associated with apps. There's an upfront cost, and then there's microtransactions. So if an app is free, if it doesn't have an upfront cost, then you can just download it from the App Store or from the Google Play Store, and it will prompt you for a payment. All right. If there is an upfront cost, then it will, it'll tell you, we'll deduct X amount from your preferred payment, whatever it is, your credit card or whatever. Now, for costs in the apps, though, that's a different story, because a lot of apps sell you small things within that app. So the general app is free, but there's specific things inside that cost money. So that's a whole other story that lets you pick and choose if you want to pay for those things or not. All right. But if it's free upfront, then you would just click install and it will install on your device.
Let's see. All right. What is the difference? Let's get this is a tough question. So let's try to get through this one in a simple, quick way, because this could be its own presentation. What is the difference between 3G, 4G, and 5G?
So easily said, just the speeds that they're capable of. All right. So bigger the number, faster it is. They're just different networks, different types of networks that your phone can connect to.
Sounds good. How can I download mariachi music on the iPhone alarm? That's an excellent question.
So it's more difficult. So Apple's made it pretty difficult to customize your music on your ringtones and alarms. You'd have to do it through iTunes, and there's a very convoluted way of doing it. But yeah, just so you know, it involves music editors and all that. So maybe I'll include a link.
Yeah, that might be better to talk about later. I just heard there's something that sounded like throat singing in the background.
Oh, sorry. There's a lawnmower going on outside.
Oh, wow. It's interesting how that sound traveled all the way in, and it sounds like Himalayan throat singers. Anyway, or that's what I defaulted to. All right, let's see. What's the next question is, how can I put my apps in alphabetical order in my iPad and in my Android phone? You can do that. I don't know if you can do that on your desktop, like on your home screen. I know that when you go to the, I think there's a way to sort them in your app screen where you have where you go and you have all the apps. I think there might be a way to sort them there. Yeah, I see. Yeah, custom alphabet. Mine's in alphabetical order. So there's usually that icon, at least in Android, where there's 9 dots, and that icon shows you all of your apps. That you can use. There's usually a way to sort that, depending on the device and the version of Android. Mine is sorted actually in alphabetical order, because the only other option is a sort by. I think you were able to sort it yourself. Is there a way? I don't know if there's a way on Android to sort apps on your home screen other than just dragging them around yourself and putting them in alphabetical order. Lawrence, is there a way to do that on Apple devices? Oh, you're muted, Lawrence.
Yeah, there is. Let me just post that in the chat so that everybody can see. Oh, that's
Did it work? There it goes. All right, good. Oh, nice. I'm glad that you can do that. How can I keep the screen on longer before it goes dark? I have iOS iPhone 12. That's a pet peeve of mine. I hate when screens go dark. I always, whenever I get a new phone, that's one of the first things I do is go into the settings and change that. How do you do it? How do you do it on an iPhone?
So in the display and brightness menu, that's the auto lock function. Basically, you can change it from all the way from 30 seconds to 5 minutes to never. So yeah, depends on how long you want your phone to stay open.
Never. I always change mine to never. I can't handle my phone closing whenever I'm looking at something, but not like directly at something, and then it just, yeah, I'd have to log in again. No, thank you. All right. My iCloud says it's full. It looks like I lost all my pictures. Can I get them back? When I changed my credit card, my extra space didn't transfer. How do I get pictures and other stuff back? And this person has trouble getting stuff in iCloud. What is the easiest way to go there? That might be a question for the geniuses at the Apple Store. I'm not being sarcastic, they're called geniuses. I mean, that's what their title is. Because that's a really specific Apple question. And it has to do with the Apple's cloud service. So if the files exist somewhere, there's a way to get them. So yeah, I would make an appointment at the Apple Store and have them, because they can go in depth into solving that problem much more than we can go here. And then they can also show you directly on the device. How do I save my smartphone voice messages from Android? How to retrieve saved messages back so I can listen to it again? Oh, this is a tough question. I think we've had this question before, whether when we did this program or some other program. I remember questions about voicemails. How to retrieve? So the question is, how do you save voicemails and how do you get them back? And I presume the question is outside of the voicemail app, because they're within the app. So you can, if you don't delete them, they'll be in the visual voicemail or in the voicemail that you call. But getting them out of there, that's a question whose answer I do not know. Because voicemails tend to be within a system. I don't know if they're in a file format that's easy to transfer. And I don't even know if they're stored on the phone itself. So Lawrence, are you looking it up right now? So I'm gonna answer the next question, and then when you find the answer to that question, just interrupt me. So the next question is, how do you clean the iPad for more storage? My iPad seems to be full and cannot download from iCloud. So this is an issue that many people who have Apple devices interact with, and sometimes the issue isn't even that their phone is full, that their iCloud is full. It's that there's sometimes the operating system itself has issues. I know that several people I know have had to go to the Apple Store to get that fixed. So, but the simplest way to clean the device to create some storage is to delete apps that you never use. So that's number one. Number two is if you have any kind of media stored in your phone, like videos that you don't need. Videos especially, videos take up a ton of space. So if you have videos that you don't need or that you're not watching or that exist somewhere else that you can get them again, get rid of those. Smaller things are like, your downloads, if you download things onto your phone every so often, and you have a downloads folder, get rid of things from your downloads folder. That's sometimes the culprit where there's random stuff in there, including PDFs and videos and whatever else. You write a website and you download a menu from a restaurant. That menu might be in there, enough of those menus, and it could be a significant chunk of space. So those would be kind of the simplest ways to do that.
And for the voicemail question, I just posted something in the chat. There's some instructions on how to do it on Android systems. I haven't verified it, but there's a step to take if you.
Good. Yeah. So you can actually save the file. I hope the file is in a format that can be easily read by by media players. All right, so we got that question done. Let's see. How do you save some of the text messages from an Android phone to a text file by contact on your PC, or save the text messages to Google Drive on your PC? Yeah, that's a portability question, and it depends on the app you're using for your voice messages. I don't know if there's an easy way to export text messages and in such a convenient way that it's by contact. If you're using Google Messages, I know Google will often have ways to export your data, so I would look within, if there's settings within the app, there might be an export. You might be able to go to your actual, Google account on the computer, and the messages might be a place there that, the app message might be there for data that you can export. It may require some work though to make it so that it's easy to see it on the computer. It's easy to save it in the same way. I don't know, Lawrence, do you have any other insights on that? You're muted, Lawrence.
Sorry. So I think that about covers it. I don't have an Android device, so I can't say, I don't have any experience on that.
Okay, next question is, could you please send me a link to your YouTube lessons? Do you have other YouTube lessons? Yes, we have, I think all except for 2 of our digital literacy classes that we've done since last October. So we've been doing this for just about a year, pretty much every week on YouTube. It's on the LA County Library YouTube channel and the digital literacy playlist. Let me go ahead and pop that into the chat, and I'll also send that by email. So if you really like these classes and you want more of them, the format of them is pretty much the same. We do like 30-45 minutes of a lecture, and then like another hour of Q&A. So if you love the Q&A, you can listen to the Q&A. Oh, somebody mentioned is that nothing is showing up in their chat. Is it just going to the hosts or panelists by chance? Yes. So whatever you post in the chat just goes to me and Lawrence, and it's the same with the Q&A. We can all see it. Oh, Lawrence, when you posted the information about how to do the how to alphabetize the apps, you just sent it to me and you just sent it to host and panelists. So you might want to repost that. And same thing with the voicemail. I think you just sent it to panelists. All right, we're going to send it to everybody right now.
I don't seem to have the option to send it to everyone.
Oh, that's weird. Here, let me do it.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case. You're a panelist, so you should have unlimited rights. All right, there's that one. And then let me do the open voicemail, or how to do the voicemail. That's weird that you can't do that. What's going on, Zoom? All right. Is there a setting function to automatically close the website after we are done to move on to the next website, or do you have to manually close clear history and website data?
I can answer that. So you can just use like the private browsing settings on your web browser. On Google Chrome, it's incognito mode. And that when you're done with whatever you're working on and you close that private browsing page, it won't save any history. It won't save any of the cache or anything like that. So the only thing that it will save is whatever you download from those websites. Otherwise, it's not going to save any history or anything like that.
All right. When I try to delete the cache on the storage page, it will show 0 cache. But when I leave the page, it's back. What's the deal with this cache situation? I just added that last part. There may be some default files that browsers will store in the cache folder, like some hidden files that really aren't actually website data, but that are just kind of configuration files that will automatically appear. They might take up 1 or 2 kilobytes, which is very little space. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would say that it's generally something the browser creates automatically. I have my Libby app on my iPad and iPhone. If I use it on my phone, it doesn't show on my iPad the amount I have read. How do I coordinate the two?
So it should automatically sync between your devices. If it doesn't, try to look in the settings and see if there's a setting for sync. If there isn't, I would try deleting one of those apps and then reinstalling and re-signing in with your library card account and see if that works.
All right. Can you tape a phone conversation besides using the video function? Yes, there is a way. I mean, other than, just kind of taping it, with an outside device, like a tape recorder by your phone, and just being on speakerphone. I mean, that's the kind of that's the non-tech way of doing it. Yeah, there are probably apps that will let you tape phone conversations. I would be wary of doing that it depends on depending on the law of whatever state you're in. In some places, you have to let the person know that you're taping them. And in some places, you have to actually get approval for taping people on the phone. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the policy is for that in California. But if you can find an app that does that, then yeah, there's ways to do that. But just check to make sure it's legal, so you don't get into any kind of trouble if you do that. I think we had this one already. How do you delete videos from your phone without deleting it from the Photos online app? Oh, if it's stored in both places, the way that you would do it is you would clear it from your phone. There's usually a specific setting. So I'm going to go into my Google Photos and just look at it right now so that I give you up-to-date information. I haven't done it in a while, actually. I have enough storage on my phone, and I don't take that many videos, so I'm not usually worried about that sort of thing. But let me look at it right now, because my phone automatically syncs. So if I want to, so I'm looking, there's actually an option when I go into a specific photo or video that says delete from device. And because I know that my phone automatically updates to the syncs with the cloud, that if I hit delete from the device, it'll only delete from my phone and still be available if I go to like photos.google.com, which is the web address for Google Photos. So that's Google Photos specific. Different apps will have different kind of language around that. Can you enable save chat so we can capture the links you put there? I don't know if I have that option within Zoom. I'll have to look at that. I'm going to make a note to myself to look at that to see if saving chat is possible. I can send those links. I get a transcript of the chat, so I can put those in the follow-up email. Because of the way that we have the privacy settings on the chat organized, it might be a more difficult thing to do because folks can't see each other's chats. They can only see our chats. Oh, that's weird. Somebody tried to go to the YouTube playlist. It doesn't work. I'm gonna click on it right now and see if it loads for me. That's weird. Yeah, it loaded for me. I wonder if it might have to do with the specific Zoom settings. But yeah, I'll also have it in the follow-up email. So, or if you just go to youtube.com/LA County Library, you'll see it in our playlists. So if you click on playlists within that, it's usually a tab at the top of the website of the YouTube. You'll click playlists and you'll be able to see those. All right. Oh, there's a question about email. How do you erase a bunch of emails all at once? Well, this is not a program about email, but I'm going to give a very quick answer for this, like a 2-second answer. Then I think we're almost done with the questions, and it's definitely time for us to be done. I'm getting tired. There's a little checkbox at the very top above where the emails, if you click that checkbox, it'll select all, and that'll let you delete a whole bunch of emails at once. If I have a new iPad, how to transfer all content from old iPad into the new one?
I have the answer to that. Here's the link, Oleg. If you want to send that to them, you would use the Quick Start app. And that link goes to the Apple's direct website, and they have a tutorial for that.
Thanks, Lawrence. Good anticipating. Oh, I see. It doesn't give me somebody was talking about the syncing photos and videos. It doesn't let me give me the option to delete photos from my phone only. It says remove from Google account and sync devices only. Yeah, I think that might be specific to your app. If you're not syncing with the cloud, if you're not already syncing, then it won't, it won't do it. If you're not syncing with Google Drive or Google Photos, then it won't give you the option because it's not stored anywhere else. It's only stored on the phone. Yeah, beyond that, it's hard for me to give a great answer just because I don't see the phone and I don't know the exact setup. Where do I need to save on my phone if I download something, and where can I delete all other copies to make space? With Android, there's with Android devices. I don't know if every Android device, it depends maybe on the brand of the device. I have a Pixel. So there's a automatic cleaner app, and the cleaner app will identify files that are, where you have multiple copies of the same file on your phone, and it'll automatically let you delete those. So cleaner apps will often let you do that. And there's a variety of them. I would be careful because some of them have advertising, but there's oftentimes with both Apple and Android a built-in one. And so I would use that one. Oh, we had a good comment about a question that was asked earlier just now. So in order to sort by alphabet or alphabetized apps, the comment is on my Android apps page. There are 3 dots at the top. Click on it for the option to do alpha sorting. Indeed. Thank you for that. All right. Well, we've gotten to the end of our questions, Lawrence. And I'm pleased because I'm just about losing my voice, I think. All right. Let me post the post-event survey into the chat. Oh, we have this question again. Can you enable save chat so we can capture the links you put there? I can't enable save chat right now, but I'm going to look into doing it for future programs. I don't know where that setting is right now, so I'd have to look it up. So I'm going to post a link to the post-event survey if you have the time and inclination. The survey is not very long, but we appreciate all of the responses to it. Your feedback and suggestions, positive or negative. We really like those, and we listen to them and we read them. And oftentimes the events that we do are directly a result of suggestions that we get from those surveys. Lawrence, thank you very much for this insightful program and for sticking around for actually literally just over an hour for the Q&A. And everybody, will see you hopefully next week at Locking Down Your Data. Till then.
See you guys there next week.